tonight is CNN's chief Washington correspondent who anchors the lead weekday afternoons and co-anchors State of the Union Sunday mornings. His book, Race Against Terror, Chasing an Al-Qaeda Killer at the Dawn of the Forever War, is available October 7th. Please welcome back to the show our friend, Jake Tapper, everybody. You brought out apples and honey.
Yeah, in case my dad wonders why I wasn't at synagogue tonight.
Yep.
It is Rosh Hashanah, apples and honey, a little good sweet year for you and your Jewish family.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. Do we clink?
Yep.
All right.
Speaking of family, speaking of kids, I'm a little disappointed. Your daughter, Alice Tapper, joined you last time, best-selling author, does not have time for us anymore.
Your favorite tapper?
My favorite tapper.
Alice is a freshman at Michigan.
Yeah.
And she sends her regards.
Yep, but did not send a video. Too busy to even make a video.
She sent a picture of her AirPods in the toilet and asked for me to buy her some new ones.
Really? I like that you wouldn't do it unless there was like photographic evidence that they actually ended up.
She assumed.
Yeah.
I didn't demand it, but she always knows that I like the facts and the evidence.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Right. Also, before we get to the meat of the news, you're also an Eagles fan.
Oh.
And congratulations. Congratulations on the big win.
That was crazy, right?
That was a crazy win.
You watched the game? They won in the last 15 seconds with a
and you've had a lot of nice things that happened for Philadelphia fans recently. Do you feel like maybe enough's enough?
Poor Seth. He roots for Pittsburgh teams.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that my son, who's an Eagles fan, I have converted him.
Yeah.
And he thinks that the Eagles being in the Super Bowl is just like a regular occurrence.
I know. It's the bummer when you raise kids in an era where your team is good, and like I feel like it's like Red Sox fans who were like born whatever in like the late '90s. They're like, this is great. They just win all the time. You're like,
since Jack has been paying attention to football, the Eagles have been in the Super Bowl 3 times and won twice.
He doesn't understand how. He's gonna be so miserable in his 20s. All right, Jimmy Kimmel, he's a friend of both of ours.
Yeah.
You know him, I know him. We know he's a good person. Obviously, this news is very exciting. But what was your original take on how this all went down starting last week?
I mean, I thought it was pretty much the most direct infringement by the government on free speech that I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You have Networks are allowed to cancel shows. It happens all the time.
Of course.
But this was the FCC chairman saying, local affiliates, it's time for you to say you're not going to air Kimmel anymore. And then Nexstar, which the largest owner of local affiliates, needs approval from Brendan Carr himself to let this merger go through. Yes, sir. How high do you want me to jump, sir? They do it, and it's just insane.
Yeah,
it's just insane.
It is I mean, we don't know the details as we're talking about, if any sort of agreement was reached or if ABC just is sort of like, this was an error in judgment. But I sort of look forward to seeing, obviously, how Jimmy responds. That'll be the most interesting piece of this.
Yeah, and well, look, I don't know why Disney and Bob Iger ultimately made the right decision and stood for free speech. They didn't initially, and that would have been the second example, because we all saw what happened with our friend Stephen Colbert and Sherry Redstone and Paramount with a different merger and a different pressure point that the government has. And we'll see what happens when they come for Comcast, and they'll see what happens when they come for Warner Brothers Discovery, and maybe you and I will be drawing comic books
I'm worried about
together.
you. I think I'm going to be fine. I am very concerned about you. I think low-key he's a fan. Real quick, he did say, it should be illegal to be critical in the news. Like, basically, in no uncertain words.
No, he said remove them from the airwaves. And
Yeah.
also, it's so amazing that it's no longer just, Donald from Queens, you're on the air, right?
Yeah,
It's no longer just the musings of this guy. Like, he says something, and it's like that old story from Henry II where he says, will no one rid me of this turbulent priest? And then all of a sudden somebody assassinates the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Yeah.
Like, he says, I really hate the news. I really hate the news. They're unfair. People in his administration are like, oh, did you hear what he just said about the news? And so I don't think it ends with Kimmel. And in addition to you and me and Jimmy Fallon, who is, I don't know why he's in his sights, but also named SNL, whatever. I mean, he's going to be coming. It doesn't end, is what I'm saying.
Do you, I would imagine you can't change your approach when you do the news, and you have been doing it for so long. So it would be crazy to actually think about what he's saying when you go into making your show every day.
You can't, right?
Yeah.
And you have to stand up for freedom of speech. And look, when I was a White House correspondent, and this is not the same thing, and I'm not saying it's the same thing, but when I was a White House correspondent and the Obama administration was going after Fox and saying they were not a legitimate news organization, I asked publicly, why is it appropriate for any White House to be saying that any credentialed news organization is not legitimate? Like, why is that appropriate? And, you know, I just think you have to be consistent about these things.
Speaking of, agreed. We were talking about Kimmel. You had an interaction with Kimmel recently. You
boy.
and Caitlin Collins were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And you were playing for charity, which is great. And your charity must have been so excited that you made $32,000 for them. Well,
Not $1 million.
Well, yeah, that's way less than $1 million. So, and you were saying backstage, like, you think Jimmy Kimmel has the right to free speech, but he should be off the air because his questions are too hard.
It was a very tough. Does anybody in the audience know what you call the glob of chocolate in a Reese's peanut butter cup? Anybody? Just yell it out.
Well, I don't know. That's not how it works on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Like, there's like 4 guesses, and like then you get a lot of like tools at your disposal.
Not only that, but we 50-50'd it and used a lifeline and still got it wrong.
Really? Who was your lifeline? Who'd you call?
Another CNN anchor. I don't want to get her in trouble.
Yeah.
But she went to Harvard. That's all you need to know. She went to
The question
Harvard.
was about candy. Like, I mean, it just seems like when you got a question about what do you call the inside of a Reese's Pieces, you're out like, who's my smartest friend?
You don't know the questions ahead of time.
Well, but, oh, I see. You have to pick your lifeline.
Oh, it's one lifeline.
I take it back.
Afterwards,
now I feel dumb.
And
like, not as dumb as, not 32,000 dumb, but, you know.
That's totally fair. And we come back, and we tell my son and my daughter about this, and my son's like, oh, it's called a plug. I'm like,
He knew?
He knew it.
I didn't know it. I will say, when I heard you got it wrong, I was like, how hard? And that's a hard question. So
And he said, of course I knew it. I should have been your lifeline. And I'm like, well, you're 15. I know it. It didn't.
If they told me the category was candy, you would have been my guy.
Right. It's gaming, Discord, and candy.
There you
Okay,
go.
then I'll pick my son. That's good. That's good.
I want to ask about your book. We'll be right back with more from Jake Tapper, everybody. We're back with Jake Tapper.
Can I just say one thing? I'm sorry to interrupt. It's your show, but that reminds me how much joy the Lonely Island Seth Meyers
thanks,
podcast
seeing
is.
Andy. Yeah.
Every Tuesday it drops.
Yeah.
It just makes me
Not
like,
every Tuesday, because sometimes we can't get our together, but I'm happy to say it drops this Tuesday.
It's just.
Thank you. We're very lucky to have you as a fan.
It's such a delight.
You are no stranger to writing books.
It's my 8th.
This is your 8th book. This is Race Against Terror. And it's about building a case against an Al-Qaeda operative.
Yeah,
and the sort of legal maneuvers different presidents have in order to make their cases.
Indeed, and also just the sleuthing that the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office had to do to. So this guy was caught by the Italians like by happenstance, and the Italians are like, "Have you heard of him?" And the Americans say yes, and they say, "Great, take him." But the Americans can't take him because it's the Obama era, so they can't just disappear him into Gitmo. They have to build a case against him. But they have no evidence. They don't even know when the date is of the attack that he confessed to of killing Americans. So they have to travel the world and build a case like CSI, fingerprints, witness testimony, all the rest. And it was just this fascinating story of sleuthing that I heard about, and it was just so cool.
Is it fun when you get into it? Do you find that people who actually did the work on a case like this are just thrilled that someone is curious enough to come ask questions years later?
100%. And even more so, the service members that were there for the ambush, that 2 of them were killed, are eager to hear their story, to tell their stories, because nobody knows. Nobody's ever heard of Firebase Skin, and nobody's ever heard of Ray Lozano or Jared Dennis, and they will because of this. But absolutely the investigators, because the story is so cool, and the people, the characters, the U.S. attorneys and the assistant U.S. attorneys, the FBI, the women that did the fingerprinting at Quantico, they're all just like normal folks who never get heralded, and all of a sudden, there's an annoying reporter asking them about everything that led to this day, and they're excited about it.
I'm so glad you did that, and I did kind of blow by when we talked about Millionaire that you were raising money for a great organization that
Homes
you've been
for Our
involved.
Troops, that
Homes
you
for Our
always
Troops.
help with.
Well,
yes.
you reach out, you have a lot of people across, sports and entertainment, and we're always so happy to, we do the easy part. We just give you items to auction off, and it's a great organization. And you've got your auction coming up in November, right?
Yeah, we do it around Veterans Day every year, and I think this is 8th or 9th year that we've done it. We've raised enough money to build several homes for disabled troops. It's really cool.
It's a fantastic Homes for Our Troops. We will make sure we throw something up for that as well. Jake, it's always such a pleasure. Thanks
you
for
so
being here.
much. It's so
Congrats
great
on the book. Race Against Terror is available October 7th. We'll be right back with Jade, everybody.